I have what is called a perforated septum, slightly different from a deviated septum, and that is, it's what you think it's from.
Paris Jackson has spent most of her life in the public eye, but many parts of her story remained hidden for years. Being the daughter of the legendary pop star Michael Jackson meant that the world watched her grow up from the very beginning. Cameras followed her family everywhere, and people were always curious about her life. Yet despite all that attention, Paris stayed quiet about many deeply personal feelings for a long time. Recently, at the age of 27, she spoke more openly about things that people had been wondering about for years. Her words confirmed some beliefs she had carried since childhood and also helped people understand her life journey better. Paris Michael Catherine Jackson was born on April 3, 1998, in Beverly Hills, California. From the moment she was born, her life was surrounded by fame and mystery. Her father was already one of the most famous entertainers in the world, known for his incredible music, dancing, and global influence. Because of that fame, Paris and her siblings grew up very differently from most children. Many people close to the family said that Paris was named after the beautiful city of Paris in France. There was also a story that her father had made a friendly promise with relatives that if any of them had a daughter, they would name her Paris. Whether it was destiny or coincidence, the name seemed to fit her unique life story. Paris grew up alongside her older brother, Prince Jackson, who was born about a year before her. Later, their younger brother B.G. Jackson joined the family as well. The three children were raised mostly by their father at his famous Neverland Ranch. Their mother, Debbie Rowe, was not part of their everyday life while they were growing up. She had agreed that Michael Jackson would have full custody of the children, which meant he was responsible for raising them. Because of this arrangement, Paris spent most of her childhood inside the unique world her father created. Life at Neverland Ranch was unlike any normal childhood. The property was huge and included things that sounded more like a theme park than a family home. There were amusement rides, a small zoo, beautiful gardens, and even a private movie theater. But even though the place looked magical from the outside, Paris later explained that their lives still had structure and rules. They were homeschooled and had daily routines like other children. Schoolwork had to be completed before they could enjoy the fun parts of the ranch. This balance between education and play helped their father try to give them a childhood he felt he never had himself. One of the most unusual parts of Paris's childhood was the way her father protected his children from public attention. When the family went out in public, Michael Jackson often asked them to wear masks or scarves that covered their faces. At first, Paris did not understand why this was necessary. It felt strange and confusing to her as a young child. But later in life, she realized that her father was trying to give them something very valuable: privacy. Because people could not easily recognize them, the children were sometimes able to visit places like toy stores or restaurants without being surrounded by crowds and photographers. As Paris grew older, she started to understand more about the world her father lived in and the pressures that came with being so famous. Michael Jackson had spent most of his own childhood performing on stage and traveling for concerts. Because of that, he wanted his children to experience moments of normal life whenever possible. Paris has shared memories of simple family times, like watching movies together or going on small outings when their schedules allowed it. These small moments meant a lot to her because they made their lives feel more like a normal family, even though the outside world saw them as part of a global celebrity story. Despite the protected life inside Neverland, everything changed suddenly in 2009. On June 25th of that year, the world was shocked by the death of Michael Jackson. Paris was only 11 years old when she lost her father. For her, it was not just the loss of a famous star that the world admired. It was the loss of the person who had been the center of her entire life. The pain of that moment would shape her future in ways that people would only begin to understand many years later. The death of Michael Jackson on June 25, 2009 shocked the entire world, but for his daughter Paris Jackson, it was a deeply personal tragedy that changed her life forever. She was only 11 years old when she suddenly lost the person who had always been the center of her world. Until that moment, her life had mostly been protected behind the gates of Neverland and surrounded by family and caretakers. After his passing, everything changed almost overnight. The attention of the media grew even stronger, and people everywhere wanted to know what would happen to Michael Jackson's children. For Paris, it meant stepping into a difficult reality while still trying to understand the meaning of such a huge loss at a young age. Only a few weeks after her father's death, millions of people around the world watched the public memorial held for him in Los Angeles. The event became one of the most widely viewed televised memorials in history. Many celebrities and friends spoke about Michael Jackson's life and career, but the moment people remember the most came near the end of the ceremony. Paris, standing beside other family members, tearfully spoke about her father in front of the entire world. With a shaking voice, she said that he had been the best father anyone could imagine. It was a short moment, but it showed the deep love she felt for him. For many viewers, seeing such raw emotion from a young girl made the loss feel even more real and heartbreaking. After that day, Paris and her brothers went to live with their grandmother, Catherine Jackson, who became their legal guardian. Catherine had always been a strong figure in the family, and she worked hard to provide stability for the children during a very confusing time. Even with her support, the transition was not easy. Paris had to adjust to a life without her father while also dealing with constant media attention. Growing up as the daughter of one of the most famous entertainers in history meant that her private struggles were often discussed publicly. Reporters and fans were always curious about how the Jackson children were coping. As Paris entered her teenage years, she faced many emotional challenges. Losing a parent at such a young age can leave a deep sense of emptiness, and she later spoke openly about how difficult those years were for her. She struggled with feelings of sadness, confusion, and pressure from the public eye. Being famous did not protect her from the normal struggles that many teenagers experience. In fact, the constant attention sometimes made things even harder. Paris eventually shared that she went through serious mental health challenges during this time and needed professional help to begin healing. One widely reported event in 2013 showed just how serious those struggles had become. Paris was only 15 years old when she experienced a personal crisis that led to medical treatment and a long period away from the public spotlight. After this difficult moment, she spent time in a therapeutic program designed to help teenagers work through emotional challenges and rebuild their confidence. Looking back, Paris later explained that this period was important for her recovery. It gave her the chance to focus on healing and understanding her feelings away from the pressure of constant media attention. During those years, Paris also began reconnecting with her biological mother, Debbie Rowe. Their relationship had been distant during her childhood, but as Paris grew older, the two slowly started building a connection. Spending time together helped Paris learn more about her own family story and gave her another source of support during a challenging time in her life. The process was gradual, but it helped her feel less alone and more grounded. Despite the difficulties she faced, Paris eventually began to rebuild her life and explore her own interests. She developed a love for music, fashion, and creative expression. In many ways, these passions allowed her to connect with her father's artistic legacy while also creating her own identity. Instead of trying to simply follow in Michael Jackson's footsteps, Paris focused on finding her own voice and style. As she became older and more confident, Paris started stepping into the public spotlight again, this time on her own terms. She began modeling, appearing in fashion magazines, and attending major events in the entertainment industry. These opportunities allowed her to show the world that she was more than just the daughter of a famous singer. She was becoming an artist and personality in her own right. Even though she was building a career and exploring new paths, the memory of her father never left her. Paris often spoke about how much he meant to her and how his influence continued to shape her life. His music, his values, and his love remained a powerful part of her story. Over time, she became more comfortable sharing her experiences and speaking honestly about the challenges she had faced. By the time she reached her 20s, Paris Jackson had begun transforming her painful past into strength. Her journey from a grieving child to an independent young woman was not easy, but it showed her resilience and determination. The world had watched her grow up during moments of sadness and struggle, and now people were beginning to see a different side of her, one that was strong, creative, and ready to tell her own story. As Paris Jackson entered adulthood, she began shaping a life that reflected her own interests and personality rather than simply living in the shadow of her famous father, Michael Jackson. While the world still saw her as the daughter of a legendary performer, Paris wanted to prove that she had her own voice, talents, and dreams. Over time, she started stepping into creative industries such as fashion, acting, and music. These opportunities allowed her to express herself and gradually build a career that belonged to her alone. One of the first major steps in her professional life came through modeling. Paris's unique look and confident personality caught the attention of major fashion companies and photographers. In 2017, she signed with IMG Models, one of the most respected modeling agencies in the world. The agency represents many internationally known models, so signing with them showed that the fashion industry believed in her potential. Soon after, Paris began appearing in fashion magazines, photo shoots, and public events. These appearances helped introduce her to a new audience that saw her not only as Michael Jackson's daughter, but also as a model with her own identity. Her presence in the fashion world quickly grew. Paris appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine in 2017, where she spoke openly about her life, struggles, and personal beliefs. The interview attracted a great deal of attention because she was honest about the challenges she had faced while growing up in the public eye. She spoke about grief, mental health, and the pressure of being part of such a famous family. Many readers were surprised by her openness, but it also helped people understand her story more clearly. Around the same time, Paris began exploring acting. She made appearances on television and took on small roles that allowed her to learn the craft. One of her early acting roles was in the television drama Star, where she played a character who briefly interacts with the main cast. Although the role was small, it gave her valuable experience working in front of the camera and understanding how television productions operate. She later appeared in the film Gringo, which starred several well-known actors. Again, her role was not the central focus of the story, but it helped her gain confidence and experience in the film industry. Despite her growing success in fashion and acting, music always remained close to Paris's heart. Growing up around her father's musical legacy had a powerful influence on her. She had been surrounded by instruments, songwriting, and performances from a very young age. Eventually, she decided to pursue music in her own way. Instead of trying to copy the energetic pop style that made her father famous, Paris chose a softer and more personal sound that reflected her own feelings and experiences. In 2018, she formed a musical duo with musician Gabriel Glenn called the Soundflowers. The pair performed indie folk music, a genre that focuses on simple instruments and emotional storytelling. Their performances often included acoustic guitars and ukulele, creating a calm and reflective sound. This style was very different from the powerful pop music associated with Michael Jackson, which helped show that Paris wanted to create her own musical identity. The duo performed at small venues and released songs that expressed personal emotions and life experiences. Paris later took another step in her music career by launching a solo project. In 2020, she released her debut album titled Wilted. The album featured a collection of alternative and indie-inspired songs that focused on themes such as heartbreak, personal growth, and emotional healing. The music had a darker and more thoughtful tone, which matched the difficult experiences she had faced earlier in life. Critics noted that the album felt honest and reflective, giving listeners a glimpse into her inner world. Beyond her career in entertainment, Paris also became known for speaking openly about important social issues. She has supported causes related to mental health awareness, equality, and environmental protection. By sharing her own experiences with depression and recovery, she helped encourage others to seek help and talk about their struggles. Her willingness to discuss difficult topics made her voice meaningful to many young people who faced similar challenges. During these years, Paris also spoke more openly about her identity and personal beliefs. She explained that she does not like to place strict labels on her sexuality and instead believes that attraction depends on the person rather than gender. Her openness about this topic was important to many fans who felt encouraged by her honesty. She also shared that her father had always been supportive and accepting when she expressed herself as a child. Remembering that support became one of the reasons she felt confident enough to speak about it publicly later in life. As Paris continued to grow personally and professionally, she slowly began sharing more of her thoughts about her father's death and the questions that still surrounded it. For many years, she avoided speaking in detail about the subject because it was deeply painful. However, as she became older and more comfortable with her voice, she began addressing those feelings more openly. Her comments about the circumstances surrounding Michael Jackson's death gained attention and led to renewed public discussions about what happened in 2009. Even though the world often focuses on the dramatic parts of her story, Paris Jackson's journey is also about resilience and self-discovery. From a childhood surrounded by intense fame to adulthood filled with creative exploration, she has continued searching for her own path. Step by step, she has been building a life that reflects who she truly is rather than what people expect her to be. As the years passed, Paris Jackson continued to grow into a public figure who is no longer simply known as the daughter of Michael Jackson. Instead, she slowly built a reputation as a creative artist and a person who is not afraid to speak honestly about her life. Even though she had faced many struggles during her teenage years, her 20s became a period where she focused on healing, building a career, and understanding her place in the world. It was not an easy process, but it showed her determination to move forward despite the difficulties she had experienced earlier in life. One important part of this new chapter was her dedication to music. After releasing her first solo album Wilted in 2020, Paris continued exploring songwriting and performing. The album allowed listeners to hear a deeply personal side of her life. The songs spoke about heartbreak, loneliness, and the search for peace after emotional pain. Instead of creating flashy pop music, she chose a softer alternative style that focused on storytelling and feelings. Many listeners felt that this approach made her music more authentic because it reflected real experiences rather than trying to copy trends in the music industry. At the same time, Paris continued working in fashion and modeling. Her work with IMG models helped her appear in several fashion campaigns and magazine covers around the world. She became known for her unique look, which included tattoos, bold hairstyles, and a confident personal style. Rather than trying to follow traditional beauty standards, Paris often embraced individuality and self-expression. This made her stand out in the fashion world and helped build a loyal group of fans who appreciated her honesty and creativity. Her modeling career also allowed her to collaborate with major brands and photographers. She appeared in fashion magazines and walked in runway shows that placed her among well-known figures in the industry. Although some critics initially believed she received opportunities because of her famous family name, Paris worked hard to prove that she was serious about her craft. Over time, her dedication helped change many opinions. People began recognizing her as someone who truly wanted to build a professional career rather than simply enjoying the benefits of celebrity status. Alongside her creative work, Paris also remained active in acting.